Hello everyone, it's Danny the Plumber. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert this old manual Sloan flushometer into a new style Sloan electronic flushometer. These are hands-free and help with sanitary issues, and this is also a low flow one. So let's get started on the install. Okay, first I'm going to take my Allen wrench and unscrew this Allen screw that is holding the flange up against the wall in place. So I'm going to simply turn that thing counterclockwise and unscrew it. Next, we're going to have to shut off all of the water for the building, but for now, and I'll get more into that later, but for now, let's just take the water at the shut off here. Let's turn that off. So I've popped that cap simply with a flat edge screwdriver, and then there's a flat edge screw that'll need to be turned clockwise to shut off the Sloan valve. It's a good idea to flush the Sloan valve to relieve any pressure at this point. I didn't do it exactly right there, but you should do that. I will do it in a second, but that should be done. Next, we are going to unscrew this right here. That was the vacuum breaker nut. Next, we're going to unscrew the tailpiece coupling, as they call it, which is this nut here that keeps the flushometer body in place. So I'm going to unscrew that counterclockwise, and you can see right there I just pushed down the handle to relieve any pressure. And I'm going to kind of work back and forth here. I'm going to take the vacuum breaker nut and slide that thing away and get the other nut up there off completely, the tailpiece coupling, and there's going to be water inside always, just a little bit of water, so you may want some rags or a bucket or something like that to pick up that water. Okay, next step is we're going to take this nut off down below. Sloan refers to that as the spud coupling. So I'm going to try to remove that thing by turning my open-ended adjustable wrench counterclockwise. And what's happening here is my whole spud, the lower spud nut and spud that connects into the porcelain urinal there, the whole thing's moving on me. So I'm going to end up having to replace that as well, and that does not come included with this Sloan flushometer. So right now I just had a tiny Tim and I'm kind of prying away at that thing just so I can see if I can get access to the nut because the whole thing was spinning on me. But what ended up happening is the whole thing just kind of fell out. So we're definitely going to have to replace that lower spud, it's called. More on that later, but I think when you do this, if it's older like this one, you should do that anyway. Okay, so the whole water for the whole building, I'm in a school right now, is shut off. You don't want to do this part unless the whole water is shut off for the whole building. Right now I have it off, and I am unscrewing this piece here. And this is the control stop or shut off for the urinal itself. And you don't have to replace that, but I highly recommend you do. Just because they get old and they stop working after a while. So the next part or piece that I'm down to is this brass little nipple that comes in the box. I am not going to be replacing this nipple. This nipple you would install, it's just a brass fitting with male adapters on it is all it is. You would install that in a new installation application. So if this was all new rough plumbing and stuff and there was no tile on the wall and it was a brand new bathroom, I would install that, but it's the same exact piece. It's brass, it can't rust, it's not going to go bad. I'm going to leave that. There's no need for me to cut that out and resolder it whatsoever. So now we're just going to clean up the area so I can get a new spud on that lower piece later. I'm going to clean up that brass part and move along here. Alright, now I've got myself a little bit of Teflon tape, and we're going to screw that thing clockwise, is the proper way, onto the brass fitting there. Now I'm going to grab some Teflon paste and apply just a little bit of it. And this is not so much as a sealant. This is just more of a lubricant, and just so it can thread on a little bit easier. Okay, so now I've got the whole control stop package, and within that package there is a cover tube and that brass piece that I was talking about. So like I said before, new install, you will install that brass piece, but in this case, I'm not going to do it because it's already there. Next step, I'm going to take a little measurement, and what I'm measuring here is for the covered tube, which is simply a chrome decorative flange type thing that'll cover the rough brass adapter there. So I'm going to take the measurement and I'm going to mark it on my cover tube here and cut that piece. Alright, so I've got my tubing cutters here. I've got my mark. I'm going to cut that cover tube right here. And they're so small, it's kind of difficult to hold in your hand without slipping. So I've simply just got myself a pair of pliers and I'm holding it on the end, of course, that I am not going to use because it's going to scar it up a little bit. Once I've got that thing cut, we're going to simply slide it on like so. And here is my little Teflon paste that I'm, as I said before, using as a lubricant just to help thread my control stop into place. I've placed my decorative back flange against the tile there. And later I will follow that up by screwing the Allen screw into place, but I'm not worried about that yet. Okay, screwing the control stop clockwise into place. I've got my large open-ended adjustable wrench that I've put on there. You don't want to use anything that'll make marks on there. So this is the ideal wrench in this situation. Screwing that thing down, fairly tight. You don't want to drip on that. It's pressurized behind there as soon as we turn the water back on, of course. And I'm not going to make it perfectly level just yet. I've got a little angle right there, and I'll show you why. I want to level it out with the rest of the pieces back attached to it, and I'll get more into that as we proceed here. Next, I'm going to just shut off the control stop, or the shut off there, and this is enabling me to get the water for the whole school turned back on. Next, I'm going to pour a little comment on my urinal just to kind of clean it up in preparation for the urinal spud placement. And I've got myself a little utility blade because this is really caked on there pretty hard, some of this discoloration and calcium buildup or whatever it may be, urine, etc. Next step, I'm going to grab an 1 3/4 urinal spud, and this does not come with the Sloan Flushometer. You have to buy this separately. So I'm going to grab a new one of those, and we're going to install that next once that's nice and clean here. Okay, so here's the one I used, and you can see the number right on it. It's just the spud, and it's simply a brass piece with a gasket, a washer type thing to prevent leaks. And I'll show you how that goes on. You can simply slide it into place just as they packaged it, at least for the one I have here. I'm going to put a little downward pressure as I'm doing here with my left hand and thumb, just so it doesn't spin, especially at first. It's important. Once it kind of bites down, you won't need to do that. But as the first few rotations, you're going to have to back it up like I'm doing there. Alright, I'm going to do a little speed up in 2x speed here so you don't have to waste your time watching me screw this thing down. Okay, here is the exact number and box that I have, the model number, if you guys are interested, and kind of all the stuff that comes in it. And I'll show you everything that comes in it as we proceed with this video. Next thing, I'm going to grab the flushometer body, and it's important right there, that O-ring that I showed you, to wet it, get it nice and wet, because I didn't wet it once, and I ran into some issues. So wet that thing just with water. They don't want grease or anything, but just some water, and it'll help slide that thing nicely into place without tearing the O-ring. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is get that thing hand tight, the flushometer body valve, and now I'm going to level it out. It's just easier, for me at least, to level it with the flushometer body in place. So I'm going to finalize my leveling right there, and I'll just come to eye level and help me kind of go back and forth, making sure that thing is level. You want to make sure that that flushometer nut is in place, or the coupling as they call it, in place real nicely. So that's all I'm doing here, making sure that's nice and level. Next, we're going to install what Sloan calls the vacuum breaker flush connection, which is simply just a tailpiece. And to do that, I like to take a measurement about halfway up of those threads on that lower spud right there to the bottom of the flushometer body threads right there. And I don't know what I'm getting, about 9 and a 16th or so, whatever that was. I'm going to take that. I'm going to grab my vacuum breaker flush connection pipe. I'm going to put a mark on it, and we're going to cut that. And that's done by taking a measurement from the top where the vacuum breaker would sit on the very top to the bottom of the vacuum breaker flush connection, or tailpiece as I call it. Put your tape measure right on the top there, put in a mark, and I'm going to follow that up by cutting it with my tubing cutters again. And I'm going to speed it up so I don't bore you guys. We're just going to be simply cutting that and getting that thing installed. So the next thing that comes with this flushometer is going to be the spud flange kit. And that comes individually packaged inside the flushometer in a bag like this. So this is just simply the spud coupling and flange. And I'll show you how that is installed now. Okay, so I'm gonna place the lower spud flange into position as just like that. Next, we're gonna take the vacuum breaker coupling with the threads. If you notice the position of the threads, those are gonna go up like that. Then we're gonna take the decorative spud coupling, slide that on, followed up by the nylon slip gasket, and then the black rubber gasket into place, just like that. Once those are all on there, probably a good idea to put the vacuum breaker in place, which I didn't do here, but should have done, and will do in a second. But that all goes like that. That's the correct order. And sometimes you can get the vacuum breaker, which comes also in the Sloan flushometer kit, in this bag like that. Sometimes you can get it into place while that's on there, but I'll show you in a second what happened here. So take the vacuum breaker out of the box, and it comes with a couple pieces, the plastic piece right there. Slide that on and follow that up next with the friction washer. And as you can see, I'm having a little difficulties putting it on, so I'll take it all off, but everything that I showed you was the correct order as far as the nuts and the gaskets go on that tube, and I'm just reinstalling once I've got that vacuum breaker in place here. Now I'm going to slide those things in, and you can see I've got a little gap in there. I'm just going to pull up on it and get rid of that gap and hand tighten only for now my vacuum breaker coupling. I'll tighten everything up with my hands, just kind of going from one thing to the other, and then I'll go down to the lower spud coupling there and tighten that up, and I just kind of go back and forth hand tightening everything right now, and we're going to of course follow it up with the open-ended adjustable wrench, but I like to evenly tighten things as I go along. It just seems to prevent leaks. Next, there are some letters and numbers indicating, which model this is here, and figure out which direction you want that facing. Do you want that facing out towards everyone, which I think they recommend, or do you want to hide it and make it real clean? I kind of like to do that personally. But figure that out and keep that in mind as you tighten down all of these nuts here. It's really helpful to have this large crescent wrench that I have, this large open-ended adjustable crescent wrench, because most of the regular ones don't open wide enough for me. So I've got this extra large one, heavy duty, and that just prevents me from putting anything that'll with teeth on it that'll scar up that thing. So real important. I do a lot of these, so I do have that tool. But I recommend if you do these things that you get something that doesn't have teeth, like your regular channel locks. And now a little fast forward action as I evenly tighten all of these nuts down into place. Okay, the next thing that comes in the Flushometer box is the G2 Echo assembly, which is the infrared sensor right here, and it comes with the diaphragm also in this box. So the diaphragm was going to end up sitting right that little hole lined up with that little white thing. You can either put it here as I'm doing on the G2 assembly, or maybe easier to put it right onto the Flushometer body valve by itself. But either one, get it in there, and my elbow's in the way. I apologize for that, but I'm just hand tightening that lower nut there. Once that thing is kind of hand tight, we're going to have to follow it up with the strap wrench that is provided by Sloan, which is really nice. They do provide a nice strap wrench so you don't scar up that lower nut to get this G2 assembly in place. And so right now it's kind of just spinning freely up on the top there. We're going to get the strap wrench, like I said, comes with the box there, slide it onto place. That's the lower nut right there that we're going to have to spin clockwise to tighten into place. I need to back it up with my left hand there so it doesn't turn on me. We have that infrared sensor in the front. It's where it should be, with the Sloan words facing you as you take your leak. And backing that up more, get that thing nice and snug into position with this strap wrench. It works really well and pretty easy to do. I like that Sloan gave this to you in the package here. All right, now I'm going to grab my Phillips head flathead screwdriver and turn the stop on counterclockwise. So here you can see this lower spud there is sitting up higher than the old one, and I don't really like it. So there's a bit of a gap right there, but I'm going to fill it in with some clear silicone. I don't love it, but we'll fill it in with a clear silicone, and no one will be able to tell that that gap is there. It'll also prevent any pee and stuff from going in there. Next, I've got the control turned to the on position, and I'm going to lift this tab right here right out of the way, a plastic tab. And if you notice, I'm out of the way because you're supposed to be out of that way so the sensor can activate, the infrared sensor. So after you pop that tab off, little plastic tab, stay out of the way, get any objects out of the way for a couple of minutes as that infrared sensor kind of learns itself and learns where the objects are. Next, I tighten that back flange against the wall nice and tight. Here I am going to, you can see with my Allen wrench there, just tightening that flange against the wall. I cleaned up any residual Teflon paste that I had there with my paper towel. And we are pretty well getting close to finish here, guys. This is the vandal resistance cap, and that ensures that people don't shut off and so you have no water to the urinal. So here we're going to be installing this thing, or this plastic part with those teeth facing out as I did there, and I'm going to screw that into position as so, and then we'll follow it up with the metal cap that I have in my hands here, and that goes on simply by pushing into place. Now if they try to spin that, it just rotates. and they can't pull it off. It needs a screwdriver or flat edge screwdriver or something to pop that thing off. Okay, that's how you install it, guys. And this, remember, this is the same installation for a toilet. If you guys want to use the Sloan electronic flushometer for a toilet, this is the same install. And I did a few of them at this school, as you can see. This is how it looks, real clean, real nice, saves water, saves germs for the kids, and that's how we do it. Please like this video. It helps with my channel a lot. Leave a comment if you found this helpful. Tell me your thoughts, and please go to my channel, check out the other videos, and I will see you there. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a wonderful day.